Hello and welcome to the Collecting Heroes podcast. I'm your host JD, the collector of collectors, and this is the podcast where I interview pop culture collectors from around the world. Today I am traveling to a galaxy far, far away, or should I say far, far away, actually, with my next guest. Her name's Casey and she is from Atlanta, although we were just discussing not soon to be formerly of Atlanta.
Yes, I'll be back in Mississippi.
So thank you very much for being on the podcast. And for anyone who didn't pick up, obviously, on the hint there, Casey is a Star Wars collector. And I say far, far away because that is your social handle that most people would know you by as well. And how I came to be familiar with you.
Yes. Far gray.
How did that nickname, or how did the username come around?
I had another username before, and I realized that my Instagram account was starting to turn into mostly Star Wars content, and I wanted to figure out a cool name that would let people know it's still me. It still have the word gray in it, but also be something Star Wars, some Star Wars related. And I love anything that has the phrase "a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away" on it. If I see it on a t-shirt, on any kind of art, I will always buy it. I love that phrase, and I thought it would be really cool if I put my name in that and I could make it a little bit my own, and that's how I adopted the name.
Awesome. So actually talking about, your love of everything Once Upon a Time in a Galaxy Far, Far Away, the first thing I always start off with people is, how did you become a fan of Star Wars? What was it that made you the super fan, if you want to call it that you are today, with this great, massive collection?
I grew up in a Star Wars family. My mom and my sisters were really into Star Wars. My mom was pregnant with me when she went to go see Return of the Jedi. So
Cool.
I was just born into this world of loving Star Wars. We would watch it together as a family, and I have a lot of really fond memories of just everybody being excited watching Star Wars together as a child. And as I got older, I was not a super fan, but it was always something I loved. And of course, when the prequels came out and we had this flood of toys and merchandise, and it was just, there was Star Wars everywhere. That's kind of what got me into looking for toys and getting excited about the t-shirts and things. And the more I watched the sequel, or the prequels rather, and the more that I would see the toys at Walmart, and I would just start coming home with one toy, two toys, five toys. And by episode 3, I was old enough to have my own money and really start collecting toys, and that's when it really took off. Watching episode 3 over and over because I worked in a movie theater at the time.
Oh, cool.
And then going and buying a lot of toys from the movie and just filling up my entire bedroom. That's where it started.
Nice. So do you have any of the items that from when you first started buying them as a child?
I am one of those poor victims of when you get to a certain age, your parents kind of throw away all of your toys.
Yeah.
So a lot of my Star Wars toys from that era are gone, and I've been, as an adult, searching and trying to reclaim that collection.
No, yeah, I know that. I think that probably happens to a lot of adults, especially collectors. They either have like a few bits that were left over, but they had this whole other collection that might have been thrown out along the way, or it's that trying to capture the childhood, those memories of collecting and those certain things. There was a collector that I had on a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles collector on a prior episode, and he was saying that he was just going to collect the things he had as a child, and then it just became this bigger collection. He's got this massive collection now of figures. So yeah, that's not uncommon for people to do. Definitely not uncommon. What was the sort of things that you remember from working in a cinema? Do you have any memories of those? Because I know I actually went and watched episode one in the cinema. I remember I went to it was my first ever midnight premiere
Oh, nice.
of a movie. And one of the first times I actually saw cosplay in person because people turned up in cosplay to the start of the movie, and then even before the movie started, there was a couple of people that went down and reenacted a lightsaber battle in front of the the whole cinema, and we were all clapping and cheering. It was one of these memories that sort of seared in my brain. Do you have any memories like that from working in there and seeing fans come in when the movies were coming out?
It's one of the most fun things about working in a theater and when a movie that you love comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, you get to go in there on your break, or when the movie's over, you've got to go in there and clean up. And you get to experience that joy from other people over
Yes.
and over, like all day, every day. And it makes the movie even more special because, when the music hits, when the Star Wars shows up on the screen, everybody screams and claps and gets excited. And, you time it just right. You're like, okay, I'm going to go watch the Mustafar fight real quick. And you can see everybody react to everything going on. And it's like, you've seen it 500 times. They're watching it for the first time. And you just get to keep hearing the excitement and the cheering and the clapping every day. It makes it feel like there's a real community. You feel the camaraderie and amongst all of the fans. It's a great experience working at a theater during a movie like that.
I love that. I love that. And another thing, going to the collecting side of things, I'm actually looking in the background in the corner of my room, and I'm seeing the Kylo Ren lightsaber drink bottle that I actually got when that movie came out. And I tend to keep a
Yes.
lot of the different popcorn containers or the drink holders, and I'm sure that many collector out there can identify with this. Do you have quite a few of those that you picked up as well during the movie's runs?
Yes, I am. I would get this. I worked at the theater. I'm showing my age here. I worked at the theater back when, we were actually playing movies with film, and I would collect little bits of the film. Like
Mm-hmm.
when we were putting the movies together or the trailers together, I have a few trailers of the prequels, and I have little clips of the film with some of my favorite parts in there. Those are some of the things that I would kind of sneak out with, and of course posters and Mylars that have like the smaller movie art on them, showing you which side of the theater to go to, things like that. Like I kind of took a lot of that, and with the sequels, I definitely did get the Kylo Ren, the drink, the cup. That thing is awesome. I think I still have popcorn buckets from at least Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker.
Yes, I do as well. Actually, I'm looking at those up on top of a bookshelf as well. And even the drink container that you've got in your hand at the moment has the Death Star on top. I don't think that is a cinema cup though, but that's pretty cool.
And I don't know if you can see, there's also a Millennium Falcon flying out of the bottom of
Oh,
the cup too.
oh, it is. Oh, it is. That's awesome. Where'd you get that one from?
I got this from one of our closeout stores here, and it only costs like $4 or $5. I think at home, and yeah, I saw it on the shelf. I'm like, of course I have to have that.
Where you live in Atlanta, talking about stores in your stories, because I've been following you for a while, and I comment on a lot of your stories, especially the funny Target carts of Atlanta, because they seem to be stalking you and your place because they live across the road from you. Um, is there is that a bit of a dangerous thing living across the road from a Target? Do you find you every day I'll just go over and have a look at what came out today, and you end up bringing extra things home?
It is dangerous. I go over there and look at the toy department probably every other day at least, and Atlanta has so many Targets. And like if I can't find a toy at the one across the street from me, I know that there's 5 or 6 other Targets I can drive around to looking for specific toys, like the baby Rodian that came out a few months ago. I went to probably 5 Targets looking for it, and I finally got it. It really is dangerous, but it's, it's a good kind of dangerous where you're like, oh, if I really want this, I can spend a day go Target hopping.
I see that actually on some videos when I watch, because I tend to occasionally watch YouTube videos of toy hunters and things like that, and you see them. They're like, "All right, this is target number 3," and you're like, "How many targets are in your area?" You were actually
I,
asking if we have targets here in Australia, which we do, but I don't think they're as prolific as they are where you are.
this is an impressive area. I did not realize when I moved here how dangerous the Target situation was. I back home, there's only 2 Targets within 30 minutes of me, and I will go to both looking for toys. But here, oh no, there's more than 10, all less than 45 minutes of me, and that's nothing if you're on a toy mission. You'll go all over a tri-county area looking for whatever you're looking for.
Is there a secondary store outside of Target that you go to? Like, I think in America you have Kohl's, I think is one of the common stores, and obviously your Walmarts and places like that. What would be your second pick if you're toy hunting and you weren't going to a Target? Where would you go elsewhere?
Kohl's has a very good collection of Lego, I've noticed.
Mm.
If I can't find it somewhere else, if it's sold out at the Lego store or somewhere, one of my top choices, if you go to Kohl's, you can find things a little bit longer on the shelf than other places. So Kohl's is definitely in my little collection of toy places I go. I really almost prefer buying secondhand toys. I like the toys that they're already open. I do have some things I keep in boxes, but I like toys out of the box because I'm actually gonna pick them up, play with them. I'm gonna post them on the shelf. So
Cool,
I
cool.
go to a lot of secondhand stores here, and we have the best selection of stores here. Just privately owned stores where people are just reselling older toys, things that I haven't seen since '99 when they came out.
Mm.
Um, I love doing that. We've got a couple of really great Lego stores like that here too. They can find you pretty much anything you're looking for. I'm really into minifigs, so I've gone on a hunt for a Greedo minifig recently, and I I found a Lego store that had it an hour and some change away from me, and I drove over an hour to go get this Greedo minifig.
There's a actually I'm trying to think where it is, but there's a because I'm a quite a prolific Lego collector myself. We were talking about this earlier. I'm in the middle of doing a photo challenge at the moment, and quite a few of the photos that I've been posting have Lego within them. But I remember seeing a video. I can't remember if it was in Atlanta, maybe it was somewhere else. But there's a really cool. It's like a secondary, like a secondhand Lego store.
Mhm.
That I can't even remember the name of it now. I'll have to remember, and maybe I'll post it in the description for people if they want to look in the summary. But it's a really cool. They've got all this used Lego. You can buy it by the tub.
Mhm.
They've got hundreds of boxes of unopened sets as well. But I've seen this on a couple of different Lego because I watch a number of Lego YouTube channels as well, and I've seen a couple of different people go to this store. I can't remember the name of it now. Racking my
There's
brain.
two that I really like. Atlanta Brick Company, and
That might be the one actually.
that one's really it's that one has a really great selection of minifigs. That's
Yeah.
where I got my Greedo from. And then there's a Bricks and Minifigs. I think that's the name of it as well. And it's smaller, but the people there are so nice. And I walk in and I always have on a Star Wars shirt, and they're like, "We know what to show you. Here you go."
No, it's definitely the first one. Now that you've said it, I'm almost certain that that's the one I was thinking of.
That is a wonderful store. That's the one that's just over an hour from me, and it's worth the drive. It's great to just walk around, and sometimes they have guests there. One of the Lego Masters was there.
Oh,
One of
cool.
the guys from a competition show, and he was just. I was just listening to him talk to the customers, and I'm like, "This is just a great store if you're a Lego fan."
Are you a fan of the Lego Masters TV show?
I am. I really enjoy that show. It gives me, because I'm not great at making my own creations. I'm much better if you give me instructions. I will follow them. I'm much better at that. But I just love seeing what they're able to come up with, and of course the Star Wars episodes. Always that perks me up.
If you have a chance, you should watch the Australian version. If you can find a place to stream it.
I've heard that it's wonderful. I've heard it's actually kind of more educational than ours.
Yeah, it's a really enjoyable show. Actually, the Lego collector that I had in season one, Greg from the Lego channel Brickitect, he has commented a couple times on his blog his podcast, that he quite enjoys the Australian one better than the American version, and I can completely see why, because it is a bit of a different vibe watching it. But I actually got to meet. There's two hosts. There's a host called Hamish, who is a popular sort of radio and TV personality here in Australia, and a Lego guy called Brickman, who is I think he's the only certified Lego builder in the Southern Hemisphere,
Wow.
like official, like certified Lego ambassador. So he actually has his own workshop where he builds things in Melbourne, and they make these massive creations. So he's the other judge on there that judges all the different builds, and he just has so much emotion. You see, whenever he has to eliminate someone from the show, he's essentially has tears in his eyes because he gets so emotionally attached to all the people on the show. So it's really cool watching that. And I actually had a chance to meet Brickman right prior to the pandemic in 2019, funnily enough, because we're talking about Star Wars, at an event at a Westfield shopping centre for May the 4th in 2019, where they were doing one of the world's biggest X-Wing, or what was it they call it? It was one of the world's biggest Lego sets, they called it. And essentially, they had this big container that they'd fashioned to look like a Lego box. And we're talking about like a 10-foot high container by 20-foot wide, like quite big.
Nice.
But they'd fashioned it to look like the little X-Wing model. And then they had all the individual pieces of that model were built out of Lego. So you had Lego pieces built out of Lego pieces that put together, made a whole Lego set. It was really impressive to watch. And they made this massive X-Wing that was about, I want to say probably about 6 foot long and about the same wide. And it was huge. And I went and watched that live when they did that, and it was really, really fun. I got to meet him and actually talk to him.
That's
Yes,
awesome.
I am also a massive Lego fan. Talking about your Lego collection, are you a die-hard collector? Like every set that comes out, you have to have it, or do you have specific sets that you sort of focus on?
I have specific sets I kind of focus on. I tend to not be a completionist in any way when I'm collecting. It has to be something that speaks to me somehow. Like it has to be something that I love. Like I was very excited when they released the probe droid, because that is I have like a little mini probe droid collection going on, and whenever I saw the picture for that, I was like, they made that for me. So if it's something like that, I'm definitely going to get it. Or sometimes I will buy an entire big set, because it's got some minifig in there that I am in love with and need.
I was going to ask about that because you talked about the Greedo minifigure, and I know that they did the Cantina set a while back, which I'm sure had one of his minifigures in it as well.
Yes.
So you got that set, I imagine?
I have the Cantina set, and I needed an extra Greedo because I was like, this face with the Cantina set, I need a whole separate Greedo for just displaying with the other minifigs.
What's the obsession with Greedo? Because I notice you do have a bit of a sub collection within your collection of Greedo.
One of the things I love about Star Wars is just aliens, the alien designs, and how just completely unique and original they are. You don't see things that look like that in any other medium. And Greedo in particular is just, it blows my mind how amazing that design is. It never gets old. Every time I watch Star Wars, I'm like, this is the best character. This is the best alien. The eyes, the mouth, like everything is just, I am fascinated with that design and Rodians in general. So I got a couple of Greedos in my collection, and then I was like, I want the vintage one. So I went and got a vintage Greedo. And at this point, I've got probably four of the original Greedos. I don't just get one. If I see it, I pick it up, even if I've already got it. So I just keep picking up more and more Greedos. Or any kind of Rodian. People send them to me because they know I'm the Greedo lady from Instagram. So sometimes people will send me a message like, I found a Greedo I would like to send to you. And it's the kindest thing. I love that about this community. I am the Greedo lady and the Finn lady. People will also send me Finns.
Yes, I've seen that you're the Finn lady as well. And we were discussing prior to recording a little bit of the cat lady as well.
Yes.
Because you can collect cats. That's your other hobby, is collecting cats, I think.
Yes.
Do your cats have Star Wars names?
They do not. Oddly, I've actually been thinking, when I eventually get another cat, because I'm sure it's going to happen, I will actually finally give a cat a Star Wars name. I have Charles Darwin, and I have Thurgood Marshmallow instead of Marshall. So I kind of have them named after historical figures. And then I have Scout, which is named after Scout Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird.
Nice. 'Cause obviously, you mentioned you're a bit of a reader as well.
Yes. But next cat is definitely going to have a Star Wars name.
Nice. Greedo. Greedo.
I know. I may as well name it Greedo.
What was it about Finn that stood out to you as a character?
I was all in on Finn the moment I saw him in the Force Awakens trailer, because I was so excited. I was like, oh, we get more Star Wars movies. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see what we're going to get next. And I remember when he sits up in his stormtrooper armor with his helmet on, I was just like, oh my goodness, who is that? Who is that? And that's the thing that made my hair stand up on my arms. I was so excited. I was like, who is this stormtrooper? I have to know his story. Watching the movie, I was not disappointed. It was just fascinating to have someone realize against programming that there is something bigger and better in the universe, and they can go pursue it. They can do the right thing. And that's what his whole character is based on, is doing the right thing. And the friendship between Finn and Poe, also something that I absolutely love. And so I was definitely not disappointed with that first movie of Finn. I was all in immediately upon appearance.
There's a book. I'm trying to remember the book's name now. It's sitting somewhere within my book collection, but I can't see it from here. I want to say it's called The Force Awakens, or something before the Force, or but it's essentially stories that they'd written that were meant to be sort of the earlier canon prior to that movie, which was, what was it? But there's actually so there's individual short stories within there that play to the different characters, and there is actually a Finn story in there, which is really cool. And I'll have to remember what the name of that book is, and also put that in descriptions for people. So I have to remember Atlanta Brick Co. I think that's the name, and then I've got to remember what the book is as well, because it's got some really cool stories which actually tie in to that. But the humor for Finn, I think one of my favorite things is when he's in the healing suit and
Yes.
he's walking through and the water's like coming out, like leaking it all through the hallway. I love that part.
I love Poe's reaction to that. He's just like, buddy, you're leaking. The two of them together, it's my favorite.
Do you have a favorite trilogy?
Definitely original, because that's what I grew up on.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much my favorite everything about Star Wars is in Empire Strikes Back.
Nice.
So, my favorite planet is Hoth, and I am head over heels for probe droids. I love the design of that droid, and I just find it fascinating. Everything about Hoth is amazing. Tauntauns. These are all things that I collect. I've got the Hoth section behind me here.
You can see that. Yeah.
It's everything about that
it's a Wampa,
movie.
right? That's what I can see in the background. A Wampa. Sorry to cut you off there.
I've got 3 Wampas here and a Luke hanging upside down. I have always found it really fascinating, and it's one of those things, like, the older I get, the more I watch the movie, the more I love it. The more I realize this really is something special. This is really something, they really had something amazing in that movie, and the appreciation for it grows.
Do you have an idea of how many pieces are in your collection?
I have absolutely no idea how many toys and how many items I have at all, because I keep finding more and more. Like, they're just around the apartment. They're just around in boxes that I'm still, as I'm packing, I'm like, I don't even remember having this. Like, where did this come from? I'm hoping that as I'm packing this time, I can actually log and categorize everything and see how many things. I would like to know how many toys I have, what I have, because I have a bad habit of buying something that I already own. Which is good for my friends, because I end up gifting them. Like, oh, I didn't realize I had 2 Cad Banes, so you can have the second one.
I've had a couple people on, and I say to them, like, because you've got, for people listening, even though Casey doesn't know the number, I can tell you that it's hundreds, just based on what I've seen of some of the photos. Often when I ask collectors how many they have, a couple of times I've asked, how do you keep track of those things? And they're like, oh, I don't know, I just sort of know. And I was like, there's got to be someone out there who's just not that person who knows, who's just like, oh, that's cool, I'll buy that, and gets home like, oh, I've already got that. So you're that person.
I am that person. I get excited about it when I see it in the store, and I just grab it, bring it home, and then when I get ready to put it somewhere, because of my method of the way I display things, I go to put it somewhere and it's already there.
When you move, because you were talking about, like, you going back to Mississippi for a while, and then I think you're hoping to come back to Atlanta eventually, I think you were saying?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
When you do finally move back, are you hoping to have a certain dedicated space? Are you going to change up the style of the display?
I'm hoping that I can get a place big enough to really dedicate, to really fully decorate a whole room around this, instead of it being, shelves in one room and then a display in my living room. I would like one nice immersive space that is fully dedicated to Star Wars. And that's the great thing about here Atlanta. In Mississippi, we don't have basements. It's because of just various issues for foundations, because of the way the soil is. But we don't have basements in Mississippi. And here, the great thing is I could get a house with a basement and just have a whole Star Wars cave
No.
to go immerse myself in.
Australia, we don't really have basements either. I don't. I'm not sure why we've not really had basements. I guess in some areas we have, for example, in the upper parts, in Queensland, the state of Queensland, they have a lot of floods areas and things like that. So maybe that might be a reason for not having a basement in some areas around here, and also humidity and things like that. But we didn't tend to not have basements, and I've always been jealous looking at Americans with their basements, especially when they have these massive fan caves like decked out with everything in them. I'm like, that's what I want. That's what I want. We had the Nintendo collector in my first season, Lithium, and he has this massive collection within his basement, and I'm just like, I want a space like that. I want that. So my girlfriend and I, we've been looking at potentially buying a property, and a couple of places we've been looking at, rather than having basements, they've actually got like attic spaces rather in a couple of places. And so whenever we're looking at homes at the moment, she's always like, that room or that space, that'd be the bat cave. So we're always like, we're discussing which part would be the bat cave.
I was not this into collecting when I bought my first house, so I didn't have a designated place for the toys.
Uh-huh.
But when I purchased my next place, that's number one on the list. Where do I put my collection?
I mean, that should be high. That should be high priority. So you should have the space for the collection, and then maybe another room where you can have a cat room with all different like sleeping areas, and then you can have the different levels. I love when I see people have the different levels on the wall, and they have like shelving
Yeah.
that the cats can go and walk across.
Mine have a very tall cat tree here, and they love it. It's they go nuts on that thing. They're always running up and down, jumping off of it, and I'm like, that's a little tall. You guys need to calm down. But luckily, they do not touch my collection. They don't climb on the shelves or anything. They're
I was
very
going to ask that.
respectful of my space.
That's good. That's good. People say, because I don't have children. People say, "Oh, you don't have children." I'm like, "Yeah, no, I don't want them to touch my toys." Like, right? They'll break my Lego.
Exactly. When I have guests at my house and they're going to bring their children, I always have to kind of give them the little talk ahead of time, like, when you bring your kids to my house, there will be toys everywhere, but they're not for playing with. So you're going to have to explain to your children they're basically going to a toy store and they can't touch anything.
Look with your eyes, not with your hands. That's what I've had to tell children in the past.
I will gladly pick something up off the shelf and show you, but don't grab it.
You're gonna have to. What you might need to do as you get older as well, and more of your friends have children and things like that. And me being in my 40s, I know that I've gone through that. But you might have to have a separate box, especially if you've got these doubles, like or triples or quadruples of Greedo and other characters that you've bought. You can then take some of those extras, unbox them, put them in a box, and say, "Here you go. This is the play box for anyone that wants to play with the figures."
These are the ones you can touch.
Yes, yes, yes. There you go. They're the ones that can get dirty and do whatever you want with.
I'm gonna have to have like an emergency kid box somewhere.
Hey, there's a couple other things I want to get through. We've been talking for quite a while, but I just want to quickly get through a couple of things. First off, I saw on your page that you got to go to Star Wars Celebration this year, first time that it's been on in a couple of years. Tell me about your experience there. Is that your first time going?
That is Anaheim is my third celebration.
Oh, nice.
Celebration Orlando is my first, and of course I was a big fan because I went to Celebration, but I would say that Celebration Orlando is when I became like the collector I am now.
Okay.
When I went there, I was like, oh my gosh, all of these toys. This is wonderful. There's so many, there's collectibles everywhere. I'm going to have to get everything. And that is when it started. And Chicago definitely kicked it up to the next level. bought so many things in Chicago that I had to buy one of the Star Wars suitcases that they were selling, and I filled it up with toys and brought them all home. And I did the same thing again in Anaheim. I knew it was going to happen. I was like, I know I'm going to get there. Thank goodness American Tourister has a booth at Celebration every time. So I know I'm going to buy a suitcase and fill it with toys and fly back with it.
My girlfriend and I, when we travel overseas, into America and Japan, the last couple overseas trips we've done, we've tended to pack our like a large suitcase with a medium suitcase inside it, and then all the like. Well, it's usually she has multiple suitcases for all her outfits and everything. And then I have the large suitcase with a medium suitcase inside it. And the medium suitcase houses all my clothing and everything. And then the large suitcase becomes our extra suitcase for anything we buy because we go to the Disney parks. So anything we buy toy wise or, any collectibles we get goes within there. She did when we went to LA a few years back, she got some clothing places she wanted to go to as well, so she bought extra clothing while we were there. So we always have a spare suitcase when we travel to bring these things out.
I called myself doing that. I was like, oh, I'm gonna put a duffel bag in here and that'll be enough. It was not enough. Anaheim was amazing. It was everything. Everybody brought their A game. There was like box lunch in Her Universe had the most amazing clothing. I got the Bespin Leia dress. I was like, I did not plan on doing this. I didn't know they were going to have stuff this amazing. So my spare bag plan went completely sideways on day one. I was already completely full with gentle giant statues and things. I'm like, it was already ruined day one.
And you cosplayed as well. My girlfriend, when I told her that you did Twilight cosplays, she absolutely loves Twi'leks. So she straight away jumped onto your page to have a look. What about cosplaying? Is that something you've done a lot as well, or something that you sort of, once you started going to the celebrations, you took it on there?
I started going to various conventions with some friends probably about 7 or 8 years ago, and they were big into cosplay. They were doing these amazing things. They were making everything from scratch, sewing, making the helmets, everything from scratch. And watching them do that made me want to do it, and it made me want to try it out. And I kind of stumbled upon the Twilight cosplay community, just looking into cosplaying in general. And I was like, this looks like it would be a lot of fun. This looks like a dream. I want to be completely immersed in the cosplay. I want to, headpiece. I want to look like I'm actually from Ryloth or something.
Well, you spoke about your love of aliens. It plays right into that, right?
So I decided to become one. And I did like little casual cosplays of like dressing like Han Solo or at conventions. But when I went to Celebration in Orlando, that was the first time I did like a full on, I've got the Leku and the, I've got my guns and all, just that was the first time I went completely in on cosplay. And I've been completely obsessed with it since then, not just limited to Star Wars. I've done a couple of Batman characters. I did the Penguin.
Oh, cool. I saw this. I saw you posted a photo of this, actually, in the stories. I loved it.
I did the Penguin. I did Zatanna because it's a beautiful character. It's a beautiful design. I just love everything about that character. So I've done those at Han, Lando, but Twi'leks are my favorite. And then I debuted my first dark side character in Anaheim. So that was my dark side Twi'lek. And I
loved that. The dress was beautiful, actually. That's the one I said to my girlfriend, I'm like, you should see this one she did with the dress. Like, it looks awesome.
I am very happy I pulled it off. My sewing skills they grow every time I give myself this unreasonable task of, hey, I think this is what I want to make. And then I have to teach myself how to do these things as I go. And one of my friends was nice enough to 3D print the Crimson Dawn emblem so that I could wear that on the front of my dress too. So that was that was probably one of my favorite cosplay experiences I've had in a really long time. That was fun.
Awesome. Look, I think we should wrap this up. I don't want this episode to go too long and sound like a broken record at the end of every episode, but I could talk for hours with people. I just love geeking out about the stuff, especially Star Wars. One of those things I love geeking out about. But before we wrap it up, a couple of things. First off, I usually ask people to plug their socials, but I'll get you to do that second. So the first thing is for anyone who is collecting, what advice would you give them for someone who's just getting into collecting?
Ooh. There are so many people who will give you opinions on the way that you're collecting, and I get a lot of stop opening your toys, stop calling them toys. I've gotten that. They're like, no, they're collectibles. I'm like, I'm buying them from the toy section.
Yes.
And I would just say to anyone who's starting, do whatever you love, collect what you love, treat it how you love it. If you want to open that box and you want to play with it and pose it and hold it, like, do it. Don't let anybody tell you there's a wrong way to collect, because collecting is supposed to be about joy. And if opening your toys gives you joy, if keeping them in a box gives you joy, whatever you want to do it that way and collect what you love. You know, don't feel like you're obligated to spend the money everyone else is spending, or, you know, you don't have to be a completionist. You don't have to have the entire series. If you just do what brings you joy.
Great advice. I think I would probably give the similar, or if not the exact same advice to most people, is just collect what you want, how you love to collect. Like, there is no wrong or right. That's definitely, and I think that's a great message to go out on. But as I mentioned, before I let you go, I have to let you plug your socials. Tell people where they can find you.
I am Galaxy Far a Gray, Gray, on Instagram and TikTok.
Nice. Yes, so I'll put the links in the description as well for people if they want to go check you out, and they can also come and have a look at my page as well, at Collecting Heroes, when I'll post when the episode goes live. Now, also one thing actually before I let you go, you did. Sorry, I just keep saying before I let you go. So 3 hours later, I'm going to let you go. But you mentioned the socials, but I think you should also plug your store because you're also working on some art, right?
I am. Thank you for reminding me to plug that. I have a few shirts on TeePublic, and of course, on TeePublic, you can put the art on anything you want. I am working on putting some more designs out, and it's a lot of very unique things that I love. So you may not see the main characters from Star Wars, but you know, you'll see definitely like Savage Press or Maul, things that I am really passionate about. And I'll be putting some more fun things out there. And I plan to open my Etsy shop sometime later this year. So we'll have even more nerdy things, buttons, prints. So,
well, when you open that, you have to give me the link so I can share that as well.
I will indeed.
And I'll get the link to the TeePublic so I can share that. People check it out. I love your Queen Amidala design. I've already shared that on my socials prior, just because I thought that was a really cool design as well.
Thank you. I'm hoping to add to the Padme art line. I'm working on some more pieces. It takes me forever to create them because I'm teaching myself how to use Procreate while I'm doing these things.
I love that you're teaching yourself all these things like that. That's fantastic. You're sewing and art, everything.
That's one thing about Star Wars. It's the more I get into it, which amazes me that every year that passes in life, I get more into Star Wars. The more I want to figure out ways to express that. How I want to learn how to cosplay and sew, and I want to make T-shirts that, you know, have very unique art on them, things that look like it came out of my mind and not just, you know, mass produced and sold at Hot Topic. So Star Wars is definitely opening up a lot of avenues for me.
Perfect. Casey, thank you very much for being on the show. I've had a pleasure talking to you, and I hope we can keep in touch and I can see much more of your fantastic collection once you finally get a new place to set it up.
Absolutely, and thank you for having me.
If you liked the episode, please consider following or subscribing wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also join me on Instagram at Collecting Heroes, where you can see photos of the collections of the people that I'm talking to, as well as some of my own.